Right, yeah, Ali Bashir, how you doing?
Main man, my main man.
I see you for a good 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Since you got me that title fight.
Yeah, we always see each other because we got the forum, you know. We have Messenger, Facebook, we got Skype, you know, everything. So we'll always be close. It's just a word.
Yeah, we talk regular all the time, so
words connect people. Yeah. So we're always close. We see each other every day for the rest of our lives. God willing, we'll see each other for the rest of our lives.
So great. So what's been going on since, you know, the last time I see you, what I talked to you about?
Boxing. I went into South Africa. You know, I'm training a young man there in South Africa. I have another young heavyweight up in Ukraine. You know, so I've been pretty busy, you know. For the most part, I've been working with the big guys. I haven't had any small guys lately that I can work with. I got some young kids back home, but in the professional ranks, I'm working with the big guys, the heavyweights, you know, that's what I've been working with.
Is anyone to look out for you got now?
A young man out of Ukraine, out of Kiev in the Ukraine, his name is Vlad Sarenko, and my prize product out of South Africa is a Ruan, R-U-A-N-N. Last name is Visser, V-I-S-S-E-R. In fact, he fights tomorrow night in South Africa. He's 11-1 with 11 knockouts. And tomorrow night he fights again, and I'll be with him in June again. So I've been busy with those two heavyweights. Ruan Visser is 6'10", 275. He's a big young guy, 25 years old, and the young kid Vlad Sarenko is 20 years old. Right. So I've been
a lot of power. So you're developing them with experience.
Yes, and the beautiful thing about working with these two young men, I spent time with Ruan Visser. You know, more than I have with Vlad Sarenko. The beautiful thing about them is they're susceptible to knowledge. In the sport that we have now, you don't have a lot of susceptibility because everybody knows. I don't have to tell you, you've been a boxer, you've been around the sport a long time, and there's a lot of young, wise guys who really don't know, but they always got their mouth open, and I try to talk to them. And even in the Vladimir Klitschko's camp, you have guys come in and say, "Oh, I know what I'm doing." I said, "You do?" "Yeah, I know just what I got to do." I said, "Excuse me." I said, "But how old are you?" "I'm 25, I'm 26, I'm 27. I said, "I got grandchildren older than you, but you know." I said, "Okay, have a nice day, have a nice trip in boxing, because I know what you don't know." You'll find out down the road, years from now, when your career's over, you'll find out that, wow, Mr. Bashir told me right. But you know, so.
But people got to learn the hard way,
They got to learn the hard way, you know. And I see a lot of brash, cocky guys here in England.
Yeah, England's become the new America. America used to be the country.
Yes.
UK, after UK's gone.
UK is a hotbed. UK. I don't know, UK and Australia seems to be the hotbed for boxing now. These guys are coming up and they're taking over. They're They're pushing America to the background, and they're coming and taking over. Yeah. So there's a lot of aggressive, cocky guys here in England. The Dillian Whites, the Derek Chisoras. You know, these are brash, tough guys, and at every weight class, I find them coming out more and more. So it remains to be seen how well they'll do, you know, but I would, a message to all young boxers: humble yourselves and take note, you know, take note, especially from guys such as myself, because I won't be around forever. You know, I will not be around forever, so take note and say that, you know, I learned from Bashir, or I learned from any of the other sages of the sport that's here now, because all of those guys won't be around forever.
Sure. You've been around for years, so tell the viewers when you started in boxing. You started in boxing you've been in Harlem.
I started in 1958. I started training in 58. I had my first 3 fights, of which I lost. My first 3 fights I had was 1959 in New Jersey, you know. And I got beat up in those fights. And I said, wow, what am I doing wrong, you know? I love the sport so much. But I got beat up because I was boxing guys that knew how to box. And I was learning how to box. And the guy that was training me, who actually was the best teacher that I ever had, his name was Frank Shirley. And he taught me tooth and nail. But he would put me in. He wasn't messing around. He said, look, this is what we got to do. You got to go in there and you have to try to learn. He said, but the best way to learn is not to get beat up. I said, what do you mean? He said, duck when you're supposed to duck and punch when you're supposed to punch. And if you don't, you're going to get beat up. And I learned, you know.
So how long did because you're a professional? You all have
No, I never was a professional. I was born with impaired vision. When I was a kid, my glasses were thick as Coca-Cola bottles. My right lens was thick, and my left lens was a little thinner. But I was born with impaired vision, and I can't, to this day, I cannot have the luxury of LASIK vision. Because I'm not, when every optometrist I've gone through, they said that I'm not a candidate. So I can't even be operated on to have LASIK vision.
You're coping all right though.
But even in the amateurs in them days, that was boxing pro. In the amateurs in 58, 59, you understand? 61, 62, you was virtually boxing as a pro. It was rough boxing. You had horsehair gloves. You understand? I mean, it was hard. It was hard.
Okay. So what made you become a trainer? When did you decide to give that up, and how do you get into the role of becoming a trainer?
You know, I came in the gym one day, and Mr. Shirley told me to wait by ringside, and I waited there, and I waited there, and I said, Mr. Shirley, you want me to go change? He said, wait a minute, we're going to talk. And he kept on training the other boxers. Shoot the jab, boy, throw the hook and this now. I said, Mr. Shirley, you want me to change? He said, come over here. Took me to a side. He said, listen, he said, I want you to go back there and empty your lockout and come out here and help me. I said, what? He said, I want you to go back there and empty your lockout because you can't see. You can't see, and I don't want to see you get hurt. And I was so upset because in my mind, in my heart, I was the next big thing. I was the next big thing. I could box. I learned how to box good. I learned the etiquette of boxing. I learned the language of boxing. And I figured that I put the time in, so my reward is what I'm going to win. But no, he said, you can't see. He said, because you're getting hit with punches that you shouldn't be getting hit with. You understand? And to this day, I locked in that knowledge. The most valuable knowledge that I gathered in the sport of boxing came from that man. But I was upset with him, so, you know, of course, I left him and went to somebody else. You know, got knocked and bopped around for a little while longer, and start coming to light that you can't see these punches. And about 18 months after that, I went back to him, and I started, you know, carrying the water bucket, you know, taking note from him. And here I am today.
So when did you start getting the confidence of now being to do the hand wraps of fighters and all that? What you learned now? What you could do?
That went back. Yeah, that went back so many years ago. It was a boxing trainer, Lee Black. I learned my most valuable hand wrapping lessons from Lee Black. Lee Black trained Trevor Burbett, trained Larry Holmes, Livingston Bramble. He trained a few good fighters, you know. And I was around a lot of old sages in the sport, as I spoke about, Tommy Parks, Lee Black, you know, Sam Solomon, Percy Richardson, Carmine Graziano, you know, Eddie Allion. I was around some great boxing people of the past. Walter Smith out in Detroit, you remember Walter?
Oh, yeah.
Walter Smith, Luther Burgess, Bill Miller, Floyd Logan, just a host of old school sages that gave me tidbits And I put all of that and comprise it all into one style, you know, and I live by that style, and I pay homage to those guys today. I'll always pay homage to them until I become one of them, until I'm gone. You know, I pay homage to them because I took a little bit from this page, a little bit from that page. They might have said something that they thought they was just saying something, but for me, I said, wow, you know, in my mind, I was like, wow, that's great knowledge, and I took it and I ran with it.
Okay. So now fast forward all the way to now, where you are now, for the big fight. Now, have you got into Klitschko's head now? Have you got into him right where you got him focused for this fight, real focus? Where?
Well, Jonathan Banks is the lead trainer, you know, and so, but a lot of me and I share a lot of intimate time together, you know, because I'm the elder guy in the camp, and he comes to me, you know, right up till last night in the ring. You saw him walk up to me at the end of the bell. You saw him walk up. So there's little intimacies that we have, you know, where I say, you're doing good or you're doing bad. Look, you need to do this, you need to do that. Sometimes I even infuriate him. You know.
So is it accepted everything that you come on, if you come pressure on him?
Even sometimes I say, listen, you're doing this here wrong. And naturally being a fighter, you being a fighter, you know, even, you know, in your fight, I was all over you. I said, what are you doing?
You was for the whole camp.
You know, what are you doing? You gotta, you gotta, well, I'm trying, you know, you gotta try harder.
Yeah, I know you was really, you're a strict trainer to do that. You're a real strict trainer. Because like a dad you don't want at the time, but a dad you love. He's one of those trainers like that, but yeah.
But, yeah, I'm strict, but I'm passionate. I'm understanding.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You know? Even in the fight, I said, Mark, the fight is right there. You have to take the step.
You're not going to win it.
I know what it is to be hurt. I know what it is to be down and out in your spirit inside that ring. But then that's a good trainer's job to step up and say, you've got to step forward now. You've got to cross the line, man. You've got to take over this thing now and make the difference. Just that much. Just that much. When you ready to quit, the other guy's ready to quit too. You know, the other guy raised his hand, yeah, I did, blah, 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 blah. I had a guy winning a fight up in Philadelphia. And the guy was winning the fight. We used to the Blue Horizon years ago. And the guy was winning the fight. And it was an 8-round fight. Excuse me, it wasn't Philadelphia. It was New Jersey, and it was fighting for the ESPN light heavyweight tournament. In them days, it was 8 rounds. You had the ESPN tournament, and the guy was dead tired. They were both dead tired. And the guy came back at the end of the 7th round and says, you know, take the gloves off. I think the metacarpals in my hand is broken. I said, who? He said, the metacarpals in my hand. I had never heard of metacarpals. I said, the metacarpals? He said, yeah. I said, man, I'm not a damn physician here. You've got to fight. You've got to go back out there and win this fight. And I kicked the stool out from under him, and he almost fell. He said, oh, it's like that? I said, yeah, it's like that. And he was pissed with me. He was pissed with me. But after he got pissed with me, he won the fight, and then he forgot about that. He abandoned me. Oh man, you know, I was the greatest thing since Swiss cheese. Because my trainer pushed me, this, that. I said, okay, all right, I'll accept that, you know?
Yeah, okay. Another thing, when's the first time you met Emmanuel Stewart?
Oh, Emmanuel Stewart, I met Emmanuel Stewart, 19. I met Emmanuel Stewart in 1977, 1978.
So when did you join
and we
the
became
team?
fast friends. Yeah. We became fast friends. He was like a big brother to me. Emmanuel was 6 years older than me. Wow. So we come from the same era. We had a common interest in boxing, in music, and in social things, you know. He was like a big brother, like I said, and we would fight like animals. We would bump heads. I said, no, this is not right. He would say, this is right. Typical big brother.
Disagree, yeah.
Typical big brother. he tell me, no, this is not right. Now I said, Emmanuel, that's not right. We need to do it like the said, we need to do that. I would advise him on certain things, you know? Because I said, Emmanuel, I got vision, and I'm telling you, don't do that. Don't do this. And 80% of the time, I was right. I would tell him about different things, about different fighters, about different events, not to do it. Don't go there, don't get involved. We was close together for 17 years.
Right.
You understand? Like I said, it was a big brother, little brother situation, you know?
Right.
So we both with boxing. That was our common bond.
Okay. Yeah, so you in the Kronk gym, so you had the super team. So
yeah, I was there in the Kronk gym, you know. Like the biggest people outside of Emmanuel was Luther Burgess, Walter Smith, and Bill Miller. Those were my connections to the Kronk. There were other trainers that came through there, but I stayed under those guys the most. I was more familiar with those guys. And Floyd Logan, Mr. Logan, was a great input for me. I learned a lot of things just from listening, just from asking questions, you know. And that's the thing now that the people in boxing don't do. They go out with the fancy pad work, boop, 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 you understand? And that makes them a boxing trainer.
Not teaching. Well.
It's not teaching. It's not teaching. I'll say it again, it's not teaching. You know, they go out with the fancy pad work, you know, the fancy training techniques that supposedly that makes a boxer better. But I'm looking too. I've been around the sport a long time, and I look at the training techniques, and in my mind, that what they're teaching has nothing to do with boxing. This is not an aerobic class. This is not a pit pat session. This is boxing. You know, so I try to keep it close to the vest. I've had different conflicts over the years with different, I call them technique artists. People who create jobs for themselves, which I have no problem with, except when it comes to my fighter. When it comes to my fighter, I don't like it. All of the fancy damn training techniques. Well, this is going to make the fighter better. Your pulse beat is 0.123. Your heart rate is so and so. Get out of here. Sit down. You clown. Sit down with that nonsense. You know, no, this is going to make them better. This, that, this, that. I said, if it makes fighters better, then why does the fighter today last the least of all times in history? If you look at the fight of the day now is done. In 33, 34 fights, they're done. And then of the era from yesteryear, the fights be done at 135, 140, 200 fights.
Buddy McGirt had how many fights did he have? He had those 60-something fights. He was the last of a level of fights.
Buddy McGirt came from old school teaching.
Yeah.
He had old school teachers.
Yeah.
So he was a breed of by himself, you know. He came from the old school up in Jersey City. He was being trained for Al Sertle, old school training, you know. So he had a different application. They didn't have all the and I'm not putting down conditioning coaches.
Right.
Don't mistake me, I'm not putting down conditioning coaches. But there's a time, a place for them, you understand? But the problem that I have with the conditioning coaches out there now, they come in and they try to take over the boxing trainers. They come in and they make themselves priority over the boxing trainers. Listen, step back, I got it now. He's going to do this aerobic stuff that he does. He's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to do, you understand? So they try to take precedence over the boxing training. And that's not the way boxing goes. That's not the way boxing should go. If you want a guy to progress, you got to put the boxer with the trainer, and that's it exclusively. The conditioning coach is supposed to be listening. It's supposed to be listening to the trainer, the boxing trainer. You know, they're supposed to listen to him, but they don't. In many cases, they don't. you know?
So the conditioners, you don't think there should be on a separate days doing the conditioning work completely different from the boxing? Like you have a trainer, a teacher like yourself, and a conditioner will train on early morning and he works with them for
Right,
an hour.
right. But they have got to listen. You know, when the trainer tells them to apply something, you know, when the trainer says apply, and then take your foot off the gas.
Right.
Because the boxing trainer knows what he's doing with his fighter. He understands what he's doing with his fighter. You know?
So what you say now in boxing, is there any more teachers? Who will you say is a good teacher now in boxing now, if you can name a few?
There are very few teachers in boxing from what I see.
Yeah.
And some of the trainers out there may take issue with what I'm saying, but it's a proven fact.
Okay.
And as my mother would say, my mother would say, the proof is in the tasting of the pudding.
Right.
You taste the pudding and say, this pudding doesn't taste sweet. It doesn't taste balanced. So the proof is in the tasting of the pudding. There are a lot of fly-by-night trainers out there who do not want to wait their turn. They want to put it in a jar, they want to shake it up and stir it up and say, oh, is it ready yet?
Right.
And they've been in the game 8 years, 10 years, even 15 years.
Okay.
It took me some 30, 35 years to really catch on.
Right.
To really sink into the sport. I said, oh yeah, that's right. That's what he meant. I think about one of the old school trainers. I said, Dad, that's what he meant. That's what I've been doing. I've been doing this wrong. I've been doing that wrong. But I was studious. I was studious in that I asked questions. I go around trainers now all over the world. Thank God, by the grace of God, all over the world.
So you're picking stuff up, so you're learning.
And when I'm there, I can count the young people, the young trainers on one hand that will come up and say, hey, Mr. Bashir, could you tell me something about the sport? Could you share some of your reserve, some of your reservoir of wisdom? And I can count on one hand the guys that come up and ask something because they think they know.
So guys like Tommy Brooks and I don't see him around. Phil
Tommy Brooks is still there. I was at Lou Duva's wake. You know, at Lou Duva's wake, I was there at Lou Duva's wake, and I saw Tommy Brooks.
Phil Torrance is
still there. These guys are still around. These guys
are they working with fighters? I've never seen.
They're still working with fighters. Tommy Brooks, and I believe Phil is down in China.
Oh,
Tommy told me he's down in China training fighters, you know.
Right.
Because, you know, the old school trainers are basically walking away from the American fighter. Because they don't listen. The average fighter, I mean, I'm not, you know, look, there's an exception to the rule. But those exceptions come far and few. The Charlos, Julian Williams, you know, guys of that status, those guys are susceptible to be taught by the trainers. You know, those guys come to mind. You know, the junior middleweights now the Charlos are both middleweights.
Yeah.
But those guys come to mind because I like their styles. The Charlos, Julian Williams, Earl Spence, Kell Brook. I like Kell Brook.
Okay.
These guys have that old school application where they're susceptible to the knowledge of the teachers.
Okay.
You know, they're studious. There's like a child in class and they're sitting down and watching and listening. But then you have, for every one guy that you have that's studious and that will comply, you have 15, 20. I've taken the ball out of America. I've hit the road. I'm all in Europe now, you know. I was speaking to Richard Towers here. Richard Towers said, look, what do you think about coming to England and opening a gym? I said, I'm with it. I'd like to do that. I really would like to do that because England is the new hotbed for boxing. I think that I can do some things here with the talent that I've seen here. You know, guys that's coming out of the amateurs. I think I can do some things here. I think I can touch and tap into some of the boxers that I've seen here in England. Because they have the vigor, the drive, the incentive, and they pay attention to what the trainers are teaching. You know, but again, South Africa is the same thing. It's a victim of the same thing. You got a lot of hot shots. You know, a lot of hot shots in boxing that talk. But I look at their work and say, wow, their work is suffering, you know?
Yeah, it's funny about that. That's how it goes. All right, so, you want to ask me anything? Yeah.